See. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shaneology. And I got with me my best online buddy. Oh, somebody's got a delay. My best online buddy, Ben of Fanaddicts of Film. Say hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben. Hello, sir. How's it going, man? Thank you so much for having me on. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all. Thank you so much for having me on. Shaney is one of my bestest online friends as well. I am blown away when I first started even doing this. I was just on here because I was kind of doing it was basically therapy, and I met some of the greatest people in my life here, and Shane's one of them.
Man. Yeah, man, you've helped me a lot too, and you mean a lot to me as well, Ben. And yeah, that's funny because I mean this is the Yuletide spirit, guys. This is the Yuletide times, and being with family and friends is important, and yeah, and drinking is also important. I don't normally drink, but today I decided to drink a little bit. So guys, I don't know, you might see a different version of me. Probably not. Maybe a redder faced version. Wookiee Supremacy, how's it going? Nerf herder. Yeah. So I never really got a chance to really give my my review, and I had to really think about The Rise of Skywalker a lot before I gave a review, because for those of you who've watched the movie, there is going to be spoilers. If you haven't watched the movie, guys, just letting you all know, whoever's here, I'm going to continue saying there's going to be spoilers throughout the whole, so I don't get people giving me, why are you spoiling the movie? There's spoilers. Because this is more of a sort of a thing that I started to think about as the movie as time went on about this film, because initially I felt like, you know, when you take some drugs and you're like, whew, that was a rush. But then afterwards there's sort of that moment where you sort of feel you know, a letdown inside. You know, you start feeling, oh, what did I do? What just happened here? What did I do while I was on this drug? Did I do something? Was there something wrong here? E-Opinion, how's it going, my friend? Welcome aboard. Glad you can make it of all times, because this isn't going to be pleasant for me. well, it's fine. It's not going to be pleasant, but I think this is going to be, like you said, therapy, because I think like you, Ben, tell me how you felt. What was your initial response to this film?
Well, it's like it's like what you're saying before, like being spoiled, and it's like, oh, watch out, spoilers. But it's like for the last 3 months, it's been sad. Like all of us here, us diehard 40-year-old man babies, we're the ones who loved Luke, and we wanted to be there for Luke. Luke was the reason that we were in this thing, and when we've basically realized that Luke wasn't going to be in hardly any of this thing, I quite honestly, I mean, I turned, things turned off. Part of my emotions turned off, and no one cared about the spoilers. No one cared. Everyone all of a sudden, it's like for me, I would always be worried about spoilers, right? But none of us were, because we were just all so just like, oh, all right, fine then, just throw it out the window. And so it's just been nuts. So yeah, when I first came out of the theater, I didn't know what to think, and I understood what he was going for, and it felt like The Force Awakens 2 / whatever, but it
2.0, yeah, it was almost like forget about The Last Jedi completely. Let's just pretend that there's only The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker. But we can't forget that The Last Jedi, because as much as he tried to retcon, and he tried. And that's one thing I keep hearing is a lot of people say, this movie tried, at least Disney and JJ tried to make it up to the fans. And I get that. And I get that they tried, and I appreciate the attempt. But it didn't work. And it wasn't successful. And in my opinion, that is not how this franchise deserves to end. And that's sort of what really gets me the most, because I think the more you think about it, you get past the whole, was this movie entertaining? Yes, it was entertaining. Yes, it had entertaining moments, and there are good things to take from it, for sure. But is this how we want to see the main Skywalker saga end? Like, if you took, the way I feel right now is, if you were to take Leia, sorry guys, I'll get to the chat. I just want to get this out. If you were to take Leia, Luke, and Han and Palpatine and Anakin and all the past, and take them out and just throw them out. Just don't put them in this saga at all. In this Disney saga, just take them out and just leave it with Rey's story, and don't even make mention of the past. I'd be fine with this because this is theirs. It's what they wanted to do. It's their, you know what I mean? It's their story to tell. It's Finn's story. It's Poe's story. They could do whatever they want.
But they're kind of half-assing it. So you're saying, so they're kind of they're giving it.
But that's sure, they're half-assing their story. But as long as that's their story, though, I don't have to feel like they're taking that they're changing our. You know what I'm saying? They didn't just half-ass their story. They screwed up our story. You get it in the process. If it was just one, I could accept that's what you guys want to do. Hey, this is your generation of Star Wars. Have at it. But don't go mess up with our generation of Star Wars at the same time as you're, crippling yours. You get what I mean? Like that's sort of what I feel with this. Opinions that I felt next to nothing for a majority of this film. I felt. I felt even less since except grossness. Yes, that's. I mean, the more you think about it, the more it festers in your brain and it lingers in there because you start realizing what you're left with. The same thing happened in The Last Jedi too, because you start realizing what they did with Luke, and the more. And this didn't fix Luke. This didn't fix Luke. In fact, I actually thought it made Luke worse, and I'll get to that. Death by Saberbud. Hail everybody. Hey DBS. Thank you for showing up, man. Maybe later on we'll get you on, but this is my rant, and DBS and Ben is here to calm me down.
my biggest beef was the very end because they didn't want to show Luke. They didn't want to show Luke having a good ending. They wanted to show Rey having it. So what does she do? Rey steals Luke's home. She steals his X-Wing, and then she ends up getting to his house. So it's like they use the suns and the music, right? But they don't use Luke. They replace Luke with someone hollow.
But Opinion said this to me. He said this to me on one of our discussions, and it sunk in really hard that this is what this generation does. This generation is a thief generation. It doesn't contribute to culture. It tries to supplant culture. It doesn't have anything of its own, and so in the end, that's pretty much what Rey is a microcosm of what this generation is. She's handed everything. She doesn't earn a damn thing. She goes through just empowered, and then at the end, she just takes what she wants and leaves, and you know what I mean, and doesn't contribute anything to the culture. And that's what they did. There was no contribution to Star Wars here. Where was the contribution? There was no new villain. There was no new power. I mean, the powers that they contributed made Star Wars worse. There was no real cool new ship that they contributed. No new creature that we thought was awesome. We thought maybe the Knights of Ren, but even that was a disaster. There was nothing there that contributed to the lore in any way. And you can complain all you want about what George Lucas did to the prequels, but he contributed to the lore at the very least. If you hated it, he contributed to the lore. This didn't contribute nothing except for ruin whatever it did. Whatever it did, it ruined it. I'm sorry if someone says, "Oh, the Force power," I want to make excuses for these Force powers. The Force has become a disaster. The Force cannot just do, and even if the Force could do these things, okay, let's get to this, right? The Force, what did they include in this one? Force teleportation with this, okay? Now, they can force battle. They can force, you can use the Force to battle with lightsabers from two separate places. Yet, for some reason, Luke had to die when he teleported, and he couldn't even materialize himself. So that even within their own damn lore, they can't get shit straight, which is another complete disaster. Sorry, let's get here to the end. Is like the unintended analogy of how new generations have totally hijacked this franchise, told older fans we don't matter, and confiscate it for their own nonsense. Yes, see, this is what you said, and I really thought it was better told by you, Ian. I'm glad you said that.
Wookiee Supremacy says, "Come on, who didn't like Babu Frick?" I mean,
well, I mean, it's not like there was nothing to like about this movie. That's my point. That's what sort of frustrates me, is that there are things to like about this film, even if you didn't. There were things that I thought were badass. There were things that I thought were actually cool. But when you go back into it and you say, fine, there's some cool moments here, but this is not the way the saga should end. It's a disjointed, discombobulated Frankenstein's monster of a franchise, of a trilogy that is not made for, that didn't have a beginning, middle, and an end. It was at war with itself, first of all. You know, it was at war with itself, and then at the end, it left the fans going, "Okay, well, what happened here?" And this was such a fast pace that you can't. That's why it takes a moment to really absorb the BS that you saw, because this one was like, what did I have to really process the information that was sent to me, you know, like, and we can go for hours about nitpicky at the stupidity in this movie. And you know what? J.J. Abrams understands how stupid this movie was. I'm sure he does. He realizes, and what I mean by stupid is the plot. The plot made no sense, is discombobulated, and everything was done to just sort of either retcon what The Last Jedi did, and then just try to tie loose ends as best as they could. But that's not how you end the Skywalker saga. And that's my point. You get what I mean? That's not how you end Luke. That's not how you end Han Solo. You don't end, even if Carrie Fisher passes away, you still don't end her the way they did. And I'm people say, oh, it was a classy way of ending. No, it's not. It's not.
Who said it was classy? It was, I mean, I
heard
guess
people say that she just faded away. That's not, and she doesn't need to be epic, but at least it needs to make freaking sense.
it would have, sorry.
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
No, I don't, this is your show, man. I just,
saying they're going to drink while you say it.
My 2 cents is they should have had a Carrie. I mean, Carrie really died there. And I remember, do you remember this? When Carrie passed, they literally had like a full year, and they had the movie had just barely been completed editing. And so The Last Jedi sat in, it sat in the editing, whatever it is, whatever they call it. It was sitting finished for like a whole year. And so they had just barely finished the thing. And apparently, according to what I read and what I saw, I mean, Ryan goes over to shows up at Lucasfilm, and they do this whole meeting process and decide what they want to do. And they come out of it saying, we're just going to leave it like it was. And it's like, what? It's like feminism destroyed her legacy.
Well, and I'll even argue that Rey is actually a product, and this is something else I wanted to talk about. Rey was not a product of feminism. Rey was a product of false feminism, and also not just false feminism, but a product of actual. Because I mean, if this was feminist, think about it. How empowered is Rey? I mean, I don't mean her actual power, but I mean as a character that was developed. She doesn't. First of all, she was instead of actually having her stand alone as her own character, since the beginning, since even The Force Awakens, she was coddled. The whole reason why JJ said that he didn't want Luke in the first film that much was because it would have stolen focus away from her. Well, that right away, what you're doing is you're already telling your female lead that she's not good enough.
Right.
You're telling her that she's not good enough to compete. No one said Ripley, hey Ripley, you can't be, or even said Carrie Fisher, who was opposite to Han Solo, a very powerful personality, and she stood her own. Why? She stood her own because as an actress, she stood her own, and the writing made it helped her stand her own. So if they couldn't write her a decent enough script or find an actress with a strong enough personality that she could stand her own with Luke, then that's not on Luke. That is or on Mark Hamill. That is completely on JJ and the lack of writing and the lack of acting chops on Daisy Ridley, who Daisy Ridley obviously, I'm not to say she's a horrible actress, but she definitely doesn't have the command of the screen the way Carrie Fisher did. Not even close. As far as being a strong personality. And everyone will argue, well, maybe Luke didn't have the strongest personality either, but Luke didn't have to compete with anybody. Luke was starting out the saga. He didn't live in someone else's shadow, but Rey will have to live in someone's shadow because they constantly put her in the position where they're being compared to Luke. So by the nature of her character, she always has to live in the shadow. Even if they remove Luke from the movie completely, The way they set her up, she's like they put her in her outfit, almost the exact same looking outfit, colors and color scheme. Put her on another Tatooine-like planet. Everything that they tried to do was almost as if comparing her to Luke right off the bat, yet saying we don't want to compete with Luke. Then why not? Why ever compete with Luke's shadow? Even though, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Abrams directs like a stroke.
They dressed him exactly that. They dressed her exactly like Luke from the beginning and kept dressing him like that for the entire trilogy. And it's like, yeah, it's like you're putting yourself in direct competition with him, and then yet you don't want to compete. And it's like you nailed it, man. That's exactly what's going on. It's silly.
Hail Sentinel, how's it going, bud? Yeah, opinion, I agree 100%. Abrams directs like a stroke. That's another thing. It's because it's trying to hide all the flaws in the film, and he just like he also wants to hide the fact that he doesn't have any answers. This whole trilogy wasn't planned out, so you have one film, and then we're gonna pass the baton to the next director and the next writer, and then we'll pass without an actual plan of how this whole saga was gonna end. And that's also not how you design, and that's not how I wanted to see the end of the Skywalkers. I would have liked them to have at least had a plan going forward of how they thought the Skywalker saga was going to end. At least have some idea.
They have no right to call this the Skywalker saga at all. They have no right to call it that. And all they had to do, and I just been thinking about this, all they had to do was give us one movie. The first movie, Force Awakens, should have been Luke, Han, and Leia getting back together, having to be called back for some reason, and they're all in their different places, and they're called back together, like, hey, what's going on? And it's like a reuniting, and then you introduce Rey, and then like literally you could have had them all just go away, like Han, Luke, Leia, and Lando, all four of them, and Chewie, everybody reunited in the first movie. Then you could literally have two more movies without them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100% agree. 100% agree, because they were not necessary. Really, the whole thing about making Luke have his own story arc, which is what I keep hearing Rian Johnson do, is like you didn't care so much about your own main character's damn story arc, but you're talking about Luke's story arc. But anyway, aside from that, we didn't need Luke's story arc. Even if you think it's a good idea to give him one, that's fine. I can agree with that to an extent. And even if they thought that to make Luke maybe even take a step back a little bit in his development, maybe he did, maybe he felt it was okay to give up the Force, because maybe he did realize that maybe the Force would have led to evil coming, and so to protect the world, he took a step back from the Force. But definitely wouldn't have done it after he discovered Palpatine was around, which now we've figured out he did. He knew Palpatine was there, and then he quit the Force. It wouldn't definitely happen. I mean, that's retcon, which again, one of the reasons this whole thing is disjointed and doesn't make a damn lick of sense, which is why I can't accept this. As much as I think this was a fun romp for the kids and wonderful for that, I can't accept this as the finale of, and I'm going to say this once again, not of the Disney Star Wars canon. That's fine, but for the saga of the Skywalker saga, that is where I cannot accept.
Yeah. Where we draw the line.
Yeah. That's where the line gets drawn for me. It's the Skywalker saga that they had to drag into this. Why? They did it for nostalgia purposes, just to drag us into it. But I mean, that's your business. You didn't need that. You said it right. They could have just said, here's the first movie, here's your characters, you're going to see them do one last badass thing, and then move along. And we'd all be fine with that.
The Force Awakens, that's what it could have been. It would have been and everybody would have been happy with that. You'd give them one movie, and then that's it. And then you would have something to go from. You have something to build from all these other characters.
Opinion says, do you think the characters had the most chemistry in this one, but it's too little too late? There's no time left. Yeah, I mean, that it was too little too late. Because the story doesn't make sense. Palpatine being alive asks too many damn questions, and they didn't answer one because JJ doesn't want to answer questions. That's why he keeps the pace moving. If Palpatine, which brings me to the Sentinel's question. If Palpatine was alive, Luke would have sensed it, and he grew stronger over time in his experience using the Force. Well, exactly. That retcon doesn't make sense. And it ruins Luke even more, because what this retcon does is shows that he knew that Palpatine was, because he even knew right away, he sensed it the minute he said it to Rey. The minute Luke, he says, I knew all along that you were Palpatine's daughter or granddaughter. He knew, which means that he could sense that without her saying it, which means that he probably knew that whoever was manipulating Ben was Palpatine. So, which makes his standing over the lights, over his bed with a lightsaber, that much more heinous, because instead of him just seeing that the force within him was dark, he knew that that was Palpatine manipulating him, and still decided that to instead of figuring out and trying to stop Palpatine getting on his ship and righting that wrong, he decided the best course of action might be at that moment to take down my nephew, which was, again, just made Luke worse. And that decision way worse.
And I think to them, of course, he just didn't know. That's I'm sure that's their interpretation of it. But it goes for their disrespecting of canon. And so once again, forgive me for going back to it, but they with Marvel, they respected the canon. With Marvel Comics, they respected the characters in the canon. They respected the source material. With this, they completely shat upon it. I mean, that's what they did. So anyway, sorry.
Well, Opinion says, and I've heard this, was Palpatine a clone, or was he a Death Star one? Yeah, that's what I heard. Or what I mean, again, they never explain it. They don't explain it. So anything we say is definitely going to be. Hello, Arcade. I haven't seen you in a long time. I'm glad you can join me. They never explained it, so everything is just conjecture. It comes down to what we believe and just taking pieces of what you said. And from what people believe now is that this Palpatine is not the same Palpatine as the one that died. And then in fact, it's the reverse. The Palpatine that died is the clone.
Was just a clone. So that means Darth Vader killed a clone.
Darth Vader killed a clone, and the Palpatine that took over was also a clone. And that's the problem, right? That like, now you've just made what Darth Vader killed a clone. If that's the case, again, there's no confirmation of this. This is just the interpretation of what people are saying. That's why he looked so different and much younger and different here, was because this is the original Palpatine, the real Palpatine, who's been creating clones of himself. And then you ask yourself, well, why didn't he just create more clones of himself? Why did he just stick to one? Again, with this sort of writing, it's just. That's why at some point when I knew that they were doing all these rewrites, I just thought to myself, stop it before you hurt yourself, because this is not going to end good. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to make sense. So just put the pieces, like I've said, put this back in the box. Let's start again, because this was a disjointed mess. You can't have a franchise this important to this many people, regardless of what the new people believe, what the new fans think. This is important to a lot of people. And how you treated people who, the main three was important to a lot of people. So I'm going to read Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau aren't given the keys after this mess. Then we know it's not about money. It's about sending a message. To quote the Joker.
It's not about the money.
Sorry. I don't think that they know what they're doing anymore. I really don't, and that's my point too. I think that they're I think that Disney is in such a bad place with this, or Lucasfilm is in such a bad place with this. I don't even think they definitely don't understand what the fans want. They think that we want fan service, and yes, a certain amount of fan service is fine. I'm not shitting on fan service, but what I'm saying is
their interpretation of fans. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was literally just going to say their interpretation of fan service is not fan service. Their interpretation of bringing Palpatine back, that's not fan service. Sorry.
Well, again, like I said, there's a difference. Again, people I've heard this stupid argument, which is who's worse, what Rian Johnson did or what J.J. Abrams did, and they're both. And you can't say who's worse, because one created the other. First of all, actually, they all created each other. The reason why Rian Johnson did what he did was because JJ allowed him to. JJ established nothing. He established nothing, left too many open ends. Therefore, anyone can interpret it any way they wanted to. Had he created some damn lore in the first place that he had no choice but to follow, like giving Rey a backstory to begin with, there might have, there might have, or explaining exactly why Luke deserted himself on an island and left a map to himself instead of leaving these damn stupid mystery boxes so a guy and so an arrogant, selfish prick like Ryan Johnson, who thinks nothing but his own interpretation and cares nothing for what the fans or anybody else thinks, works. He wouldn't have done what he did. So that starts with JJ. Then the second part is Ryan Johnson's fault, because then Ryan Johnson then takes the baton and says, well, you're going to leave it up to me to do this. Well, I'm just going to throw everything you said out the window since you didn't establish anything anyway. I'll just do what the hell I want. And then his interpretation was just completely, it wasn't even about the movie. It was about what he believed and what he thought. And there's a medium, and he didn't care at all about fan service. And there's a medium between not giving a damn about fan service and trying to do. And here's another thing I also think Ryan Johnson did. He read what people thought was going to happen with reading all the fan theories, and he decided to do the opposite because, hell, I don't want them guessing my movie. And there's another problem with that,
Yeah.
And so then now here we have Ryan Johnson or JJ back, and now he's got to fix it's a mess. It's a mess of a franchise, and it should never have been made this way. And we could point fingers as who did what, who didn't do what, why they should have done, and why they didn't do. They did it. They did it. And it's almost irrelevant at this point who's to blame, because and he can even say the fans are slightly to blame too. But at the same time, I know I'm on a rant, but I just hate the fact that
you keep going.
Movies are being worked this way. The movies are being created in this manner. Movies, when you look at how George Lucas's vision of how he created Star Wars in the first place, from a guy with a passion, with an idea, with a vision, and then they just took that vision, ignored what he wanted, which was their first mistake, and then infused politics, infused personal agendas, and then just did what they wanted with it, and then blame us. That's another thing. Say that the fans didn't like it, so screw you.
The anti-male rhetoric. I remember speaking with so many women who actually hated the fact that Leia slaps Poe in the first place. You remember that? Anyway, I just know so many women
I know. Yeah.
Hated that, and it's supposed to be this like, oh, empowering women, but there's a lot of women who hated that.
Well, the thing with there's a thing with The Last Jedi was The Last Jedi. It wasn't just that alone that it was a mediocre movie with plot holes. I mean, there was a ton of plot holes, and the fact that they decided to take everything everybody believed was going to happen and throw that out the window, and then think that that's such a genius movie. Listen, I could go listen to watch. I could read all the Twitter and YouTube videos and just do the opposite too. Doesn't make me a genius. You know what I mean? Just to be a contrarian and a douche.
Yeah.
Like let's be honest. Ben, tell me, what did you when you first saw how they built and JJ built Rey and Kylo Ren's story? What did you think was going to happen? What did you think their relationship was?
So you're talking about like in The Force Awakens?
Yeah, when you first saw them, what did you think was going to happen? What do you think he was leading towards?
I had no idea. But I remember being just basically drunk on the newness of new Star Wars. Like I was, all of us were drinking the Kool-Aid. All of us were just like, ugh. And then I watched the movie several times, and I was just trying to digest it. And in general, I think it's I realized it. Of course, yeah, it's just a soft. It's someone on Collider called it a soft reboot. That was John Schnepp, by the way, in case in the chat, if you guys remember the late John Schnepp, he was actually a guy who I used to follow a lot and loved hearing him talk. The guy knew his stuff, and he passed away. But anyway, he was the first one that I ever heard. I ever heard that term before. He said, "Yeah, it's basically a soft reboot." And he was fine with it because he wasn't like a huge Star Wars fan, but he was fine with it. He was just like, look, it's Star Wars. It's going to have Star Destroyers. And I'm actually a counter of that. I actually disagree with him on that. I was always like, it didn't have to have those things. It didn't have to have Star Destroyers. J.J. Abrams' concept was entirely shallow. I mean, the very first time I heard him even interviewed about it, the first thing he thought of were X-Wings and TIE fighters. He didn't think about characters or anything. He was literally thinking about how it would look. That was his most important thing.
Yeah. And I think most of the people actually had the people who were coming up with theories were the ones that actually, you know, came up with more interesting stuff and that were just ignored, you know, than they were going to do. I mean, for me, my personal thing, what I thought was, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, this is what I thought was going to happen. I legitimately thought that Luke had already trained Rey, that she had forgot her memory, that she was going to be revealed to be Kylo Ren's brother, and that she was going to end up being at least a twin brother of or twin sister of Kylo Ren. They just didn't remember it, but Leia and
especially since the regular EU is built on twins, right? The twins. Sorry.
Well, yeah, and so that's the thing. Now that's what I thought was going to happen, and then at the end, you know, Snoke was going to be what do you call it? What's his name? The one that you thought, Plagueis. I thought Snoke was going to be Plagueis as well and do a different thing. That's what I thought was going to happen, and then the Knights of Ren and all that stuff. But instead, it was going to be revealed that Rey was already trained, and that's why she knew everything. And Luke is the one that trained her, and Luke hit her on purpose because he wanted to protect her from, you know, from what was going. That's what I thought. I mean, that's just what I thought. Again, what I thought and what happened was not even close. And again, yes, it's about family. That's like Arcade said. It is about family. Would have kept it within the family and within the Skywalker lineage, right? And continued the story. But this was nothing. It was just nothing. And they threw it out, and there's this, yeah. And that's not how you make a saga, and this is not how you end it. And so, regardless of what transpired and what happened after and since, all we're now is left with is a force that's way too powerful. That is, the force has become, like I said, the Mary Sue. I mean, the fact. It's true. The force is the Mary Sue.
You're so correct. It's become so elusive instead of being this subtle thing that's only peppered in there to be used for you know, certain things that push the story forward. Instead of those things, it's literally a Mary Sue that just basically, what's the word, bulldozes the entire thing. It's
just magic. Whenever something needed to happen in the story, that's what the Force could do now. And I think that was JJ's fault because that was Rian Johnson's fault because Rian Johnson established some new Force powers that our JJ just said, well, if the Force is already going to be this, might as well expand it even further because, you know, what they did by expanding all that nonsense and including craziness into it. But what it does is it's another thing too. You can maybe you could even have a healing power in the Force. That's fine, but at least have a moment where Rey has to train for that. Maybe maybe you should have some form of surgical knowledge. Maybe being a surgeon or knowing about how the body works in some way, having that kind of knowledge. You know what I mean? And then I said
that on our last live stream. I said that because that's something that's always been like for me. If you have telekinesis of any kind, you still have to have the knowledge if you're going to heal people. You still have to have the knowledge of how anatomy works and all those things because you have to move red and white blood cells or whatever. And to make it believable, you have to have some sort of knowledge on that. And she wasn't a doctor, so it doesn't make. Sorry.
Yeah, no. You don't have to. Yeah, but it's true. You're right. Hey, Snowdub, how's it going, my friend? How are you guys? Michael Stark, thank you for coming. I'll give you guys some shout outs. Thank you guys for coming. Check these guys out. They're amazing. There is what we call the Reach Around Protocol. So if you guys haven't subscribed to people in the chat, please do so. Subscribe to Opinion Sentinel, Arcane Arcade. I don't know if you have a channel. It's been a while since we've talked. Snowdub. He's a brilliant rapper. Go check him out, and he's good videos. Check out Fanaddicts of Film, and also, I don't like to say, smash the like button because why not?
Have a one night stand with the like button.
Use the smash the button force that we've learned.
Have relations with the like button.
Yeah, just go to town on it. Yeah. So now, so just gonna say now, this is the thing with me is as people want to say, well, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? For me, I don't care. I don't care what the next thing is. My whole thing is I don't whatever that happened here is fine. Leave it alone. Let it be its own thing. But this has to not be canon. And that's my thing. This has to not be canon. The reason why it has to not be canon is because you're ending the saga of the Skywalkers in such a disjointed, listen, you could like this film and that's fine. I found enjoyment in parts of this film too, but it's almost like I've even said before, how I actually liked the DC film, the Justice League. I liked that movie.
You did?
But
Okay.
I could admit, but I liked it from a stupid point of view. Like it was a stupid movie. I understood it was stupid. I understand that it's objectively a horrible film, put together badly, and it shouldn't, and definitely would have liked to have seen something better, but I still found enjoyment in it, right? So from that perspective, I could like it. But I also think that if anybody's going to say that it's a masterpiece or a great work of fiction and a great work of art, it's definitely none of those things. Where I think different to the DC universe is because you could reboot the DC universe anytime you want to, right? Because there's always been different actors. There's always been different characters playing these characters, and comic books have constantly rebooted itself multiple times. This can't be rebooted. You can't get Luke, Han, and Chewie back, Leia back into this. You can't get them back. You can't get them back.
They had a chance, and they squandered it. They had a chance.
You can't do that here. So therefore, this is why this takes a little more. This is a little more serious, because in order for this cannot be the way the saga ends. It's a disjointed mess, and you could like it. That's fine, like I said. But this is not the way the Skywalker saga should end. This is not the way that should end. Leia dies, and nobody knows why. Why did she die? She laid down. She whispered in. She did something basically. This is another. Rey and Kylo Ren could have lightsaber battles from two different places and force project themselves and fight each other, and they can survive. But Luke projects himself not even in a solid form, as an ethereal form, and she projects herself as a voice, and she dies, and he dies. What does it make any sense there? So she dies and he dies on things that don't even make sense.
And one of the biggest things that killed me is if there's teleportation now, actual teleportation, right? She teleports the lightsaber to Kylo, right? So if there's actual teleportation, then Luke should have actually teleported himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Why didn't he teleport himself? If he's gonna sacrifice himself, then at least make the ultimate damn sacrifice and ultimately teleport himself. Why not at least have Leia teleport herself? You gave her a CGI scene that looked horrible. Give her another CGI scene, at least have her end properly, so we could see her finally do something. Maybe even have her connect to Solo and have both of them together at the same time. Even if you just want Solo to do all the talking, just think about that for a minute. Since they've already screwed the bloody Force, why not have her teleport and bring Solo with her, as in some way, so they can both have a word with Ben, and then together they could talk him back to, both of them together would have been more impactful to change than him just suddenly, I'm a good guy now. Why? Because she died. She died, so I'm a good guy now. That's not earned. It seemed to me that seemed unearned, how he went from being evil to then suddenly good just because she died. That doesn't make sense to me. And then his father talks. What changed? What changed between the time when you killed your father to now? Nothing. Nothing changed in you. You've just gotten more evil and darker. I don't understand what caused his actual resurgence into the good. I didn't think that was. Michael Stark says they turned Force into a joke without Jedi Sith concept or Force like before. Star Wars can never be what it was. I 100% agree. There was insanely powerful Sith and Jedi and extended stuff, which was better than all. Yeah, well, I mean, I've never read the extended stuff, that, but if everything people have told me makes, I would agree from the stuff I've heard. Mr. Pete channel needs 800 subs. How's it going, bud? Thank you for joining my little rant and discussion here with my good friend Ben from Fanaddicts of Film. The Force is now 100% gray now. Michael's 100% gray, to say the least.
Highlight Wookiee
Um,
supremacies. Can you highlight Wookiee supremacies? Chat. I can't. I can't do.
Leia Saber looks
The
dope.
little
Was
bitch
that one?
fits. He talks about the little bitch fits.
Which one?
I might be further up than you. I'm well, just a little bit further back, but okay. So I'll just read it real quick. So he says, oh, I lost it. Damn it. Oh well. Sorry. Wookiee supremacy he says right here. He says the little bitch fits they have between them to make it look like they know each other were cringy as hell. I think it was something that they had tried to do because once again their idea of everything is like okay like because Han and Leia have a banter at first, right? So they're trying to create that same type of banter between them, and it ends horribly because all they do is say, you're our best fighter. You're our best everything. That's the problem that they have because you're needed here. You're the best. That's the problem is that they're telling her that she's the best when I thought Poe was the best. In The Force Awakens, he takes out 5 consecutive fighters. I mean, Poe was the best. Now Rey is the best at everything and tops everyone. Whereas with Luke,
no, you're right. And that's another thing that got me is that they listened to our complaints about everything else, but they didn't really listen to what we said about Rey
because they
didn't give her a story. Still,
they're just
I mean, they gave her a background, but they didn't give her a story. Her story, we still don't know what her wants, what her desires are. We never figured out what she's trying to be or what she isn't trying to be. We don't know. Hell, until she kissed Kylo Ren, I didn't even know what team she played for. Who cares? You know what I mean? We didn't know. My whole thing is with Rey is that then all they did was double down on her powers. And again, when you make someone that powerful, also you run into the problem where they're too powerful one minute, not powerful enough the next. How did she sink if she could float in the air? Why did she sink in the damn sand? Why could she float and sink in the sand at the same time? Why is she sinking into sand that has a chasm underneath?
and then
do they not know gravity exists?
Well, and then of course they're calling it the McDonald's ball pit that they're in. So they're in that ball pit and they sink down and then they fall through, but the balls are still up there, right? Okay.
Like her story arc, I'm not even going to complain about that because I don't know what the original intent was, if there even was an original intent, because whatever the hell her original start was to where she ended, we don't know, because again, this whole bloody trilogy was a big FU to each other, going back and forth from one director to the next. And that's not how you build a trilogy. It's not how you build characters either. And you don't build characters by listening. You don't build a trilogy by reading what fans want and then giving them nothing that they want. And you don't do the opposite, which is read what the fans want and try to give them everything they want. They don't understand that there's a medium in there. You know what I'm saying? There's a medium between giving everything everybody wants and nothing anybody wants, and neither one are good. Neither one makes sense. Neither one are anything that I want in not just this series, but any movies. What DBS, Leia had gas and died. Shaneology, did you cry when Leia died? No, they didn't give me a chance. I didn't know why she died. I was confused. Chewie crying was fine. That's sort of was the only thing, but I didn't get it. Like, I didn't understand why. I kept trying to figure out, what did she do? What did she do that killed her? She was fine 5 minutes ago. Suddenly she whispers and she dies. I didn't understand her sacrifice. That's my problem with it. And then I'm like, oh, well, see, we're left now saying, making excuses for the film. You get what I mean? That's what I've seen a lot of people who enjoy making excuses, saying, well, that's the best they could do with what they had. It's like we're settling. It's like we're in a marriage and we're settling for, it's better than what we had. Yeah. It's like I said here, we're like in a bad marriage where we were abused. And as long as we don't get beaten on a daily basis, we're okay with being spit in the face. Neither one are good. It's just we're so used to one extreme that we're willing to accept this other extreme. And what message are we sending to Disney? And that's my question that I want to ask people. What message is it sending? That if we're enjoying, who I've heard people say, Shaney, we got to like something. We have to like something. We can't just be haters. And I didn't set out to be a hater. I didn't start off to want to be a hater. In fact, I've been fighting against hating this whole time. But I can't make excuses for liking something if I feel pandered to, number one, because I don't feel like they set out to make a good movie. They set out to make money, guys. That's what they did. How do we make money on this? That's what the whole thing was about. They didn't set out to make a good movie. So here I am thinking to myself, well, they're just trying. They understand their mistake. Yeah, they understand their mistake because it didn't make them money. They didn't understand their mistake in the fact that they still didn't get to tell a decent story. And will this make money? I don't think it'll make as much money as obviously the other movie did.
Well, it's actually it's already below. So far, the opening is below Last Jedi opening. And it's I think it's at 175 million, which is like low, super low. It's the lowest in the it's the lowest period.
Well, and that's another thing too. It's funny because they talked about how this is the #1 movie or blah blah blah, and I'm thinking to myself, this is such a huge con job by Disney, because the funny part that I've never heard anyone say is, what is its competition? Disney owns everything. None of the other studios were going to put something out against Star Wars. So #1, there's no competition for this film. And the only other things it could actually compete against was itself. Disney didn't put out any of Marvel movies at the same time to compete against Star Wars, nor would they. And they own Fox. So you know what I mean? So of course there was studios that didn't want to compete with it. So what's it up against? Nothing. It's the holiday season, and can you remember a holiday season where there's so few good movies out there? There's like one blockbuster, and that's one. Jumanji came out before, and now, so what's its competition? Jumanji 2.
Well, Jumanji wasn't
too far. Be the #1 film. There's nothing else. Sorry, go ahead. Go.
No, I remember Tarantino being really pissed. He was really pissed because was it 8? What's the name of that movie that came out that year? It's the year of The Force Awakens. He released it in December, right around the Force Awakens. And anyway, why can't I think of it? But anyway, he was so pissed because his box office ended up really sucking because he released it right against Star Wars, and he was hoping that he would get some of the people that weren't Star Wars. But I mean, it's like that was at that time, and no one would touch it. Now people know that it's not indestructible.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, again, if you're another studio and you realize that Disney's going to monopolize the theaters, because that's what they do, right? They bully the theaters into housing 5 or 6 of their theaters in those big complexes. They say take 5 of the theaters and the rest, otherwise you won't get my other movies. I mean, they bully theaters, so why would you put it up against this in the first place? Blackhead Cinema says story is everything. I wanted Ben Skywalker and the Solo twins, but if they had a good story with these strange characters, I would have accepted it. Again, this is what the most frustrating thing is that this whole thing was not made in good faith. This whole franchise was made with money in mind. Quickly get the next story out. They already started filming the second one before the first one was even freaking done. And they didn't even have a story planned out. And that's not how you build a trilogy. If you want to start with one movie and move on to the next, that's fine. But that's not what they did. And that's why I'm looking at this whole franchise going, we could accept it. We could say, whatever, who cares? But I'm not willing to do that because if they didn't touch our characters, like you said, Ben, if they just left it the first episode where they said, the first episode we get our fill of nostalgia, and then move on with the next character, something like whatever you did with your characters, that's your business. Don't touch ours, and don't touch our lore, and don't touch what we did. Like don't bring Palpatine into this, which again I think was just a knee-jerk reaction because he had no choice. What choice did he have? Stupid. At this point, he had no choice because they killed Snoke. So now there's nowhere to go. They neutered Kylo Ren. They knew, he was not even a character by the end. And they killed off their only main villain. So they had to now bring somebody into the fold that people knew. You couldn't completely make up a new character. You would have need 3 movies or another 2 movies to introduce a brand new character. So they had no choice. And again, saying that this is the best they could do with what they could work with isn't good enough. I don't care, because it's still the finale of the Skywalker saga. Do what you want with the other characters. Don't care. Make that fine, and I don't care. But Leia, Han, Luke, Chewie, C-3PO, and R2-D2, and the Millennium Falcon do not touch, do not ruin. And that's what they did. That's why I largely could enjoy this film. All I saw was scramble to fix everything, and it was rarely telling a good story. It was all gimmicks. Well, yeah, because that's what they wanted to do. They just wanted to hand people. It's like dangling keys for like an hour, and everybody was like babies, just like looking at Baby Yoda. Because our brains also couldn't process fast enough, because that's why the pace was so fast. We didn't realize what was going on until afterwards, right? How bad what they had done really was, until after we're like, well, did I like it? I liked it. Some parts I liked. It wasn't as bad as The Last Jedi. It wasn't offensive the way The Last Jedi was, but did I enjoy this? And that's what you're left with. Did I enjoy not that did I enjoy this, but did I enjoy what it did to the lore? Will I enjoy the future of this franchise going forward? And there is no future to this franchise as it stands now. As it stands now, there is no future. Unless they give it back to George Lucas and not retcon this, either reboot this and decanonize this trilogy and give the reins, maybe not to direct, but hand over at least the direction of the future of Star Wars over to George Lucas. Then I would say fine, fine. But otherwise, you can't continue the way this is. This is a disjointed mess, and that's all I'm going to say on that. There's really, it's funny because people want to like this, and that's fine. You can like it. There's nothing to, whatever. It's just Sorry, go on. I'm yammering.
No, please, no. This is, like I said, this is your time to share, man. Like we're all in a giant, therapy session, and it's your time to share, man. We're just here to support you as fellow Star Wars addicts, and we're sitting here in a in a therapy room. But for me, I was trying to find the article, and I still can't find it, but I know there was an article. Of course, we know, every time Bob Iger was ever asked about it, he said, "Oh, we're just going to slow it down. That's what it is. It's just too much Star Wars, too fast." When it's like, oh, okay, you just released 22 Marvel films, and they all did gangbusters in the box office. You got to be kidding me. You don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get it. The last thing that they interviewed him about was, what do you want to do with, what direction are you going to go? And I cannot find it. I've been looking and looking, but he said that they're going to make it more mainstream. So they're going to lose us even more. Like it's going to be, they'll have the Feige and the Favreau stuff, and that'll be probably stuff that's all on Disney Plus. But if anything gets released in the theater, it's going to be mainstream as hell. Like it's going to be stuff like this, like we've seen, like Rise of Skywalker. Like they're literally going to be able to heal people, and you just like stop people in their track. Like it's just going to be like it'll be too much. It'll be overpowered Force stuff, and then it'll be very mainstream, very one-dimensional, very shallow.
Well, it'll be the Mandalorian on big screen. That's what I think it'll be. It'll be something that has good moments. It's fun to a degree, but it'll be sort of a childish sort of romp with no substance, and that's fine. That's whatever Star Wars is from here on in, it has its right to be whatever it wants to be at this point, right? My point is what it did to the past. I've never seen I have never seen a movie like for instance, the Terminator movies, right? While we've seen other Terminator movies do really bad and pretty much suck, they never retconned the way this last Terminator did. This last Terminator legitimately went back in time and plucked and made the second Terminator completely moot by instantly killing, sorry, spoilers, guys. I never saw the movie, but I know this part. Instantly killing John Connor in the beginning. Right, and now everything on all the struggle and the entire struggle that they went through in part 2 was rendered completely irrelevant. So the best of the Terminator movies you completely ruined, so that you can move forward with your soft reboot nonsense. And then it ended up being garbage in the first place. Instead of just saying, hey, how about this? How about we just come up with a goddamn new idea? How about that one? How about we just Terminator had its time, move along. Let's move to something new. There's nothing left to tell. The story is ended. And that's my problem is like there's lots of stories in Star Wars. Mandalorian is proving that. At the very least with the Mandalorian is it's the least proving there's other stories with other characters to tell. You didn't need to go back and trudge up old Luke Skywalker and then use them and abuse them the way that they did. Right? You didn't need to. You didn't need to. Did they trudge up in the and for a prime example of what I have to say about this? The next generation, Star Trek. I'm a huge Trekkie, guys. I'm telling you right now, I'm a huge Trekkie. And I love all versions of Star Trek, every single last one, except for this one.
Except for the Discovery.
Except for Discovery, which I don't even acknowledge as Star Trek. So that's why I'm not even mad. I'm not even acknowledging it as Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry had nothing to do with it. It's got nothing to do with me. So here you go. It has nothing to do with Gene Roddenberry's vision. Therefore, it has nothing to do with me. Here you have Captain Kirk, an icon in Star Trek, okay? He is an icon. You don't touch him. You don't move him. He had his movies. He's great. Everyone loves him. He's a captain. They didn't suddenly decide, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make the next generation and we're going to bring a new version of Captain Kirk. They didn't do that. They didn't say it's going to have the same sort of hairstyle, good-looking guy. Maybe we'll make him a different race, just to throw in a different race, but it'll be the same character, but made in the future. They didn't do that. What they did was they went the complete opposite direction. They got Jean-Luc Picard. His association with Kirk was completely opposite. He's a completely different character, completely different sensibilities, and the way he captains was completely different. He doesn't even need the original Star Trek to exist. You know what I'm saying? Picard doesn't need Kirk to exist. He was fine on his own. And in fact, the next generation doesn't even need the old one to exist. Therefore, but it doesn't destroy the lore. It continues the lore at the same time, and it honors the lore at the same time as it just adds to it in the future, and still holds respect to. They didn't dishonor the past. They didn't dishonor Kirk. They don't dishonor any of them. And in fact, anytime they're on screen and come in sprinkled in, they were treated with respect. Scotty was treated with respect. Bones was treated with respect. Anytime they brought him in, they were treated with respect. They didn't shit on the lore, right? They just did their own thing and allowed them to succeed or fail on their own merits, and they did. They didn't allow these characters to do that. They didn't allow these characters to do that.
Forgive me for making this horrible. It's probably a horrible analogy, but it's the easiest way to boil it down to is simply this. You go back to you're a famous rock band, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or whatever, and you go back to your hit songs and then you remix them to make them sound like shit. That's essentially what you're doing. You're taking great pieces of art. The reason why you have the fans that you have in the first place, and you're remixing the song, you're playing it backwards, and you're ruining what's already been established. So you're basically, and instead of like changing the lyrics, you're changing everything that was part of that song that made people love it in the first place. And those people that came and paid for your concerts, you basically told them, no, that's not that song anymore. This is the song now. This is the way it's done now. And then people are just left going, well, I loved that song, but not so much anymore.
Well, not even just did that. What they would have done is like taking Let It Be from the Beatles, adding auto-tune to it, taking the song, saying the original Beatles wasn't mastered in Dolby Digital. It wasn't made in you know what I mean? It was in mono sound. So now we're going to remaster it, but we're going to remaster with a different bunch of singers. We're going to have girls sing it now because girls have better voices than the Beatles, and then complain about how the Beatles had horrible voices at the time.
And then they're white males.
We're going to get a much better drummer. We're going to put auto tune. We're going to do all these crazy, special effects to the thing and then completely change and then make it even more popular sounding, so it'll be more quick paced. Instead of let it be, it'll be let it be, and make it a rap song with a rap interlude, because isn't that so much cooler and hipper? And then convince everyone who doesn't like it, who is a purist to that song, and say, because it's one thing to say that they're changing the entire. There's another thing to say that the old song is going to be the new song is so much superior. And then when we say no, that's actually taking the song and disrespecting it, and everyone's going to be like, well, you guys are just being racist and old school about it. And I'm like, write your own damn song, you jerks. I
love what Wookiee Supremacy said. Oh, go ahead.
No. Funny enough, Phil Spector ruined a Let It Be album with overproducing it and adding an overly orchestral. I mean, there's always going to be, they were always making Beatles songs and stuff like that. There, how many times isn't the Beatles have the most? The song that's the most.
I haven't heard the version of what they're talking about, but I do love the original recording, and I've seen that Ken Burns documentary a million times about the Beatles doing that. But I wanted to really quickly give props to Wookiee Supremacy. Seriously, I don't walk into churches on Sundays slapping Bibles out of people's hands, then tell them my version, and then berate the congregation when they don't like it. Exactly.
That's the comment of the day. Good job.
That's exactly what it's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what they did. To us, Star Wars is kind of a religion. It is kind of part of
a lot of people. Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely a religion to a lot of people. The way they look at it, the way they act, the way it changed their life. A lot of people do. And here's something that people who may not understand. This is the whole thing about nostalgia. This is the one thing I wanted to bring up, is why nostalgia is important to a lot of people. Because a lot of people have lost people in our lives, right? I spoke with Kermit the other day. I've lost people in my life, and when you get older, as time passes you by, we all know this because we're all probably the same age. As you grow older, life changes drastically from when you're a child, and sometimes it changes so much that it's almost unrecognizable from when you can remember and when you were a kid to what it is to this moment. But the only thing that you could remember, the only thing that reminds you of the times you had when you were a child, is the nostalgic moments that remind us of those good times when we were a kid. And that's what we mean when we say, not that you're ruining our childhood. You're not ruining our childhood. Our childhood happened, but you're ruining is the last vestiges we have that remind us of our childhood. Because right now, everything that we're living in right now, maybe you lost your mother, maybe you lost your father, maybe you lost your entire family, maybe you moved to a different country and you left family behind. Maybe there's so many different stories that people have that when they live in their lives that changes, they get older and they look back and they think, well, I remember life being so much simpler and easier, and here I am older now. You even look at yourself in the mirror and you can't even recognize yourself when you get older. And all these jackasses, these kids, they're gonna be where we are. They're gonna look at themselves in the mirror and say, well, not as me, because I still look like the same as I did when I was a kid. Same thing with you, Ben, right? Still look the same when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But the point is, you start seeing the gray hairs. You start seeing, the hair come out of your nose in a curly way that you didn't remember originally. How did this happen? Why is my father's nose hair in my nose? That doesn't make sense. You grow older, and that's what life does that to you. And then you look at, you want to see Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker reminded you of the time when you held the lightsaber in your hand when you were a kid, or you had the toy when you were a kid.
That's all they had to do, man.
And that's all we wanted. We just wanted that moment again for 5 minutes. We didn't need to be told that we're old. We know we're old. We didn't need that. We don't need to be told our time is up or that our time is over and that we should forget the past. We know that. That's why we like nostalgia. That's the point of freaking nostalgia. The nostalgia isn't just so we could look at it and say, "Oh, remember this," because it's an unlocking key to our memories. It's transportative, if that's a real word. Transportative. It transports you back. It's a time machine.
Yeah. I love Death by Saber says, "Let it pee, just let it pee, let it pee."
Let her pee from the
speaking words of urine. Let it pee. No, dude, it's
Yeah, exactly.
I've been trying. Go ahead.
The hair on your head migrates to your back and inside your ears. You know, me. Everybody's got their thing, right? Your body doesn't work the same way. There's a lot of things, and when we look at these things for a moment, for a freaking moment, we're taken back, and that's all we want. We just want to know that we're sort of that's what we wanted, and that's all. We don't need it every 5 minutes. We don't need it to be forced in our face every second. A couple of what do you think? I have a whole house full of freaking toys. I don't sit there playing with toys. Well, I do sometimes, but I don't always play with toys. And I do it because each time I look at something from my past, it unlocks a memory that takes me somewhere. And that's, like you said, it's a trance. It's like going a time machine. It's in your mind that takes you to those places that you appreciate, that you want. And then when they just take your childhood or take those memories or those keys, those very important keys, and they trash them. They make them, right now you're trashing the things that I value, and you're using it. Not only are you just trashing, but you're using it for money. You're using it for your personal, for your company's financial gain. At the same time as you're also using it for your personal agenda, for your whatever agenda you have, political agenda, and then at the same time you're still insulting me with it. And now this one is like, we're sorry. Here you go, guys. Here's some nostalgia for you. Did you guys didn't get enough of it the first time? There you go.
Sprinkle. They sprinkle it and then they slap you in the face.
Yeah.
Oh, you want some of
this? They
this?
slap you in the face. Now they're sprinkling it in because they feel, well, we feel bad for you. Here you go. Here's more nostalgia. We didn't mean to do that to you. We like nostalgia, but we also want substance to our movies. And you still wrecked it. You still screwed the pooch. It's done. It was done already. The damage was already done in The Last Jedi. They couldn't recapture it. Couldn't recapture it.
And they sorry, go ahead.
No, there was no way, because even ever as much, because we knew that Rian Johnson had left no open ends. Okay, he left everything complete. He slammed the door on everything that could have come. You want to come on there, Kermit? So I'm going to send him a link. You guys could come on now. I'm going to send you guys. I just wanted to rant for a bit. Sorry, guys.
Get some stuff off his chest, and it's one of those things where it's. Did you find it helpful? Did you find it therapeutic?
Yeah, I do too. It's just like I understand people liking this film. I get it. There's nothing, but at the same time,
it's time for us to let go. We kind of have to let go of it and move on to other things. I would love to get all of us involved in making a real space fantasy franchise. Like seriously, and redo the that's my ambition. I think it would be, it's the last thing I do before I die. I would love to do that, to make even if it's budget, whatever, but if it's all in the writing. If we can make good, if we can make a good space fantasy movie, we have green screens. I don't know.
In the end, what we need is to listen. I'll be honest with you. I've complained about Hollywood and the direction Hollywood has been going for the longest time. And that's one of the reasons why, for me right now, when I say, could I accept this movie for what it is? No, because what have I personally, my channel has been doing for the longest time I haven't just been wanting to change what they did with Star Wars. I don't like what Hollywood's been doing with all of our films, not just with that. And this isn't teaching them positive. This isn't saying, well, all we want is fan service. No, it's not what we want. We want good stories. We want new things. I'm tired of you trudging my past and stomping on it for your personal gain. You're obviously not capable of taking our childhood and doing honor to it. So I would rather you leave it alone at this point and start making something new. But they're incapable of this. Well, they are incapable. Netflix, see, I love Netflix. Look what they're doing with The Witcher. Look what they're doing. They've done a lot of great things. There is good stuff out there, and that's one thing but it's not on the film. It's not in the theater. The good stuff you're seeing now is in streaming sites. God bless that there's something, but It's no longer in the theater, that's for sure. Disney Lucas, sorry, Tauntaun Girl. By the way, I saw your video. Who did the
You're
Tauntaun?
in it. Aren't you in that, Shane? Aren't you in that movie?
No, I'm not in it. I'm just the voice.
That's what I mean. Your voice is in it.
No, not my voice, but the Tauntaun voice.
Well, but you're still in it, man. You still collaborated with it. I mean, we should do I mean, we don't have to do a full reaction, but anyway, you guys should watch Tauntaun Girl's video. It's freaking awesome.
Hey, DBS, how's it going, man? Welcome aboard the rant.
Hi, thanks for letting me on.
Sorry, no, I just wanted to vent. I just wanted to rant for a bit, and then I was going to let people on slowly.
we can do more if you want, like in a week or so. I mean, because I'm going to see the movie again and do a full analysis of everything. It's like you said it perfect. Our other live stream, you said it's just that they cut. You said this. Shane said this. Is that they cut so fast that it's like you don't realize that it sucks and that's what's happening with all the normies, with all the people who aren't like huge Star Wars fans, because all they're doing is trying to digest things, but everything happens too fast for them to be able to understand that it sucks. They're just like, oh, getting hit them. Okay, that was awesome. And they just think.
It's for kids who can't. It's for ADD generation. It's just the next. Like, we can't sit for the next moment. We can't sit in the next. We can't absorb the next 50 seconds. We can't absorb what they're doing. It's just let's move to the next. Let's move to the next. Let's move to the next.
The Sentinel says The Witcher kicks ass. It does kick ass, by the way. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm
so good. So good.
What was I going to say?
Sorry. Was it about The Witcher?
No. The Witcher. Yeah, The Witcher is one of those rare things that, like, I think and again, Henry Cavill is one of those actors that gets it. He understands it. And you could tell with his interview what he said about the fandom is that, do it properly because it's he understands it, and that's the thing.
That was priceless that he said that. That was so priceless.
And look, I know people who are fans. Like, I played the video game, but I'm not a hardcore fan of the video game. I have the video game. I haven't finished it. And I've never read the books. But I know people who've said that it's pretty good. It's pretty close. And, and they're not dishonoring. They would like maybe more rugged version of him, but they're still okay with the version they got, right? They did the lore properly, and that's what happens. You can take some liberties here and there with certain things. But do the main, the essence of the character right, which is what they didn't do to Luke. They didn't do the essence of Luke right. You could go ahead, DBS. Did you want to say something? I saw you fluctuate.
No, I was gonna sing "Let It Pee," but I'll wait to the end.
Whatever you do, don't sing it too in tune, because the reason why is because some people have had copyright strikes from just singing like a song, just so you know.
Oh yeah, I did.
It's crazy. That's why I probably shouldn't have sung as much as I did. Sorry.
Alex Bell, how's it going? Thank you for joining my channel. This rant, this vent, this frustrated vent. It's just for me. Like I said, I thought about it, and while I did enjoy the Rise of Skywalker to an extent, I'm still left with this empty feeling. I'm still left with the fact that they still didn't fix anything. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I realize how Luke is worse. The more I realize how Palpatine is worse. They destroyed. They've made the original trilogy less valid and less important now.
Yep.
And that's one thing that you can. It's like, screw your own characters. That's fine. Make whatever characters you want and mess them up all you want, but don't do that to our characters and leave them alone. That's why I believe this needs to be. This needs to be decanonized 100%.
They can't stop tearing. They can't stop tearing down what's been established. They can't stop tearing it. It's like that, and that's exactly what this movie did. And so many people are not we're just accepting the movie the way it is, but it's like it completely destroys the past story that we all know, that we all love. What's his name said it outright. The guy from The Mandalorian.
What did he say?
Canavale, Jake Canavale. I mean, do you want me to read his article on it? I mean, I tried to find that damn Bob art. So I mean, it's just really short, but he just hold on a second, let me find it real quick. Go ahead and see.
No, I would. So I mean, I think I might have heard something about what he, but I don't remember exactly what it was. See, it's just like it's. I know different people have different takes on things, and they're what their allowance is, and they're people may not think the same way as we do or about this as we do. Especially if you weren't raised with the original trilogy the way we were, the way. And maybe some people won't get that until they trudge on Harry Potter. Maybe they won't get that until they resurrect Harry Potter from the grave and then make him, turn him into an evil wizard who wants to kill the school. And then.
Does Disney own Harry Potter now? I wonder if they do.
They do.
Oh gosh, they'll reboot that and it's gonna suck.
Do they, or is it Warner Brothers? No, I'm not. No, I think it's them.
We'll find out. But do you want me to read? It's really quick. Jake Canavale, a member of the Star Wars family, is far from pleased with the franchise's latest installment. I did a whole video on it, by the way. Anyone, if you want to just check out my video on it, and I talked about Tauntaun Girl's new movie. The 24-year-old actor of the station agent, son of the station agent Bobby Canavale, appears in the Star Wars spinoff series. He says, I am in the Star Wars universe now, yay! So he points that out on Instagram, and he's like, "So surely I can't speak about Episode 9, right? Wrong. This is what he says right next. Rise of Skywalker was hands down the worst Star Wars movie, an absolute effing failure. Rise of Skywalker, by the way, worst title. Worse than the Phantom Menace and the Last Jedi combined. Fight me." That's what he said.
Sorry, go ahead. Is that
no? And then he just goes on to say that if they asked him to be in Episode 9, he would have been really mad about it and probably told them no. and then I mean, he's a huge Star Wars fan. He's been a Star Wars fan since he was a kid, but he goes and he says he felt pretty the overall laziness of this new trilogy, and also a bit angry at the entitlement of it for pretty much seizing control of the franchise as a whole by basically saying, nah, we don't like the ending that everybody's been cool with for decades. That's his quote.
Yeah.
The title, The Rise of Skywalker, to me, it's the worst clickbait title ever.
It's horrible.
It is kind of a clickbait title.
Well, especially when there's not a real Skywalker in the movie.
Yeah, and you see, it didn't bring, as you could see, it didn't bring new people in. That's why it didn't make as much in the box office.
Well, I think it's the apathy was one of the reasons. I think people are just apathetic towards Star Wars now. I think a lot of people are angry. A lot of people didn't want to go, and some people are just tired of it. And there's nowhere to go with it. What's up, bud? Kerm?
Oh, hi. Kerm. I was just listening to all the haters.
Yeah, I don't consider it a hater. I consider it a purist. There's a difference. There's a difference between being a hater and a purist.
I'm considered a bitter hater. I'm very bitter what they did to Star Wars.
I've been there, and I'm in recovery, guys.
I love it. I love it.
You're in recovery? Well, I mean, there's nothing to recover from. It's over. It's done. You just move on. That's all. You just move to a new hospital, move on, and that's it.
Oh, that's so sad.
No, there is.
Come on, guys.
So we have to get over it. On.
I mean, I think we all love Star Wars to the point where we're just going to keep talking about it and keep covering it.
Nope, not me. I'm done.
No,
I'm done with. There's nothing more to talk about. There's nothing for me to talk about. I can't legitimately go back and say, well, I'm going to be so happy with what they're doing. I can't be happy with it anymore because it's just the franchise. Like what I've told you about how I feel about the Discovery is now how I feel about Star Wars. I thought there was hope for Star Wars before. I know there's no hope for Discovery under what the hell they're doing because Discovery doesn't even follow Gene Roddenberry's vision. It's not Star Trek to me, and this is no longer Star Wars to me. I mean, I can enjoy it and I could watch it, but to me, it's a cartoon. It's a cartoon of what it used to. It's not a serious. You know what I'm saying? It's an asterisk. It's like watching baseball players who've been juicing up that you know are juicing. It's like watching wrestling now that you know that it's fake. You get what I mean? That's sort of how I feel about it now. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's watching hundreds of Jose Canseco's play against each other.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds is my favorite baseball player.
Who?
Barry Bonds?
Barry Bonds.
Yeah. Oh, Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I'm from San Francisco.
He knows how to fill that vein. He knows how to fill the.
Well, it's sort of what I mean, but like now it's just sort of like it taints the future of it for me, and so now
Did you say taint?
Go ahead. Sorry, Carmen.
No, I said, did you say taint?
I said taint, baby. It tainted it all up with its taintness. It's all tainted. But I can't. I don't know. Maybe you guys can convince me later on. Maybe you guys can give me some therapy, shock therapy.
Does that mean we're not going to do? Are you going to do a Mandalorian review with us this weekend?
I'll do one with you guys, sure. But like I said, I'm not going out of my way anymore to care about every little detail that comes out. When someone says, "Oh, there's going to be a movie and this director's doing it," unless they can come up with me, unless I can see that they've actually found a way to bring my interest back somehow by bringing back the love of the franchise. Yes.
Well, how about this? If they come out with Jon Favreau is taking over for Kathleen Kennedy, and they're going to make a Darth Bane trilogy with Henry Cavill as Darth Bane, would you buy into that?
No, because that's fan service. What I want fan
service.
I would love it.
Why don't you want fan service?
Because that's like a hand job, like that won't end. I need it to end at one point. I need to move on with my life.
Are you sure?
Dude, I'm a fan who wants fan service. I don't get that, Shaney. I don't get that.
There's a specific amount of fan service that's fine. I'm not saying I don't want it at all. Of course I want some fan service. What I'm saying is I don't need fan service to the point where I'm getting patted on the head like a little baby with a lollipop at the end of the thing every time and forget the actual story. There's one thing between just throwing fan service at me like just like a movie reel of just stuff that I love and that's it. And then forget that there's an actual plot, storyline, and character development that needs to be had here. There needs to be both. There needs to be that's what I'm saying. Movies don't do that anymore. They don't give you a good deep story and then fan service unless they're one or the other. It's like what Rian Johnson said. It's like he either does his way and just does what he wants and forget about the fan service, which is not what I want. And I don't want this either. I don't want just someone dangling keys in front of me and saying, "Here's everything you think you want," and just have me like orgasm on nostalgia.
Because they misinterpret fan service. Like they misinterpret it.
Well, yeah. What is fan service? Is it just giving me everything that I think I want?
Because a lot of
sorry, I want something different than what you want, Kermit. Maybe you want something different than you want.
Kermit. Hey, Kermit. I want to see a trilogy of Darth Raven and Darth Malak. I want a trilogy of their story.
Great, cast what's his name? Jake Gyllenhaal. Great.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Darth Bane.
No, as Darth Raven.
Okay, so and just
I like Henry Cavill as Darth Bane. That motherfucker is huge. Oh my god, he is enormous. He has bigger breasts than all the big titties I've seen in The Witcher.
He did that so long because he's a big Green Lantern fan, and so he would do all these Green Lantern posts and stuff. But he's he's been doing that to keep his Superman thing going, and as a result, he got this thing. I'm sure he's gone by that. He's not Superman anymore. But yeah, man, yeah.
Hey guys, can you carry this for a while, Ben? Because I got to go do something quickly.
Sure.
You guys can deal without my ranting for a while. Hold on.
But I love the idea of having Darth Revan or Revan in general. Revan is actually confirmed canon.
Right. That's a woman, right?
Revan is not. Revan is a man.
I thought that's optional.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. I think if they make it, it's not supposed to be. I mean, Revan's incarnation was the video game, and then it became video game, then a book, if I remember correctly, and then anyway, it's just I don't trust them, so they might mess it up. If Feige does do that, if it's Feige doing that, that would be great. I think he's honestly Feige's going to probably. What some people are saying is that he'll probably do the wills, which is what George was poised to do. The wills.
Well, I actually don't like the wills of the Force. I don't like any of that storyline.
Well, I mean, it's the will. It's their spirits. They're kind of
the
spirit
wills,
beings.
The wills is like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Well, are you talking about? Are you talking about the weird design that they had on the Clone Wars? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I didn't like it in the Clone Wars. That's the only time I've seen that incarnation.
In that episode, that's where Darth Bane. That's Mark Hamill. Darth Bane is in that episode, and that was a good moment for me. The wills, I agree. The design, I didn't love the design of how they looked, but I think the idea of having an all-powerful kind of in kind of Force beings would have been cool. Yeah. It would have been cool to see Luke tap into those. I mean, that would be the next step, is to having Luke Skywalker tap into that.
Obviously, Ben, we're never going to get what we wanted, bro. Like, I agree with you. I would like to have a Luke Skywalker sequel trilogy. That would have been optimal, but that's not happening. So I don't like the Bendu either.
That was.
I did like the Bendu. I did like it. I'm sorry.
It's one of those things where it could be a toss-up, because the first thing I thought of was Never-Ending Story, because the rock biter and Never-Ending Story, when he made me think the Bendu made me think of that. A rock biter. Anyway, guess what I'm talking about? The Never-Ending Story. All right. No,
I don't actually.
You never saw Never-Ending Story?
Yeah, I have. It's been a while though, man.
It's the opening scene, and he's like, "Oh, it's a rock biter, a rock biter, a rock biter," and then he's running away, and then all the rocks because he's eating rocks. Okay.
All I can think of is that the kid from the Never-Ending Story reminds me of Jango Fett or Boba Fett. You know, the kid.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Boba Fett as a kid in.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. In Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that now. Yeah, I can see that.
And also, guys, you know what? My next video is going to be after my latest PMS show. Is I'm going to make a video about 10 things I loved about the Rise of Skywalker.
That's a good. That's a great video, man. You'll smash it with that. That'll be great.
Or people hate it, I don't know. It's interesting to see. It's so interesting to me that for so long, the last couple of years, the critics loved the last one and the fans hated it, right?
Yep.
Now it seems like they both hate it.
And I don't remember who it was, but I think it was either you or Shaney said that you totally called. Someone in one of our streams called it. They said, yeah, it doesn't matter. They're just going to make something because this was before the Rise of Skywalker came out. And they're like, yeah, they're going to make something that actually just no one likes, because they're not going to please the SJWs. They're not going to please us. And it's just going to be this thing that nobody likes.
That's what happened.
And so you have a bunch. So the people who do like this movie are normies who aren't huge Star Wars fans. And as a result, it'll go ahead.
I liked it, Ben. And I consider myself a Star Wars fan. So. Forgive me. No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Dude.
Well,
I'm just saying, I liked it. I did like it. And I'm sorry to everybody else, but fuck it.
Are you kidding me? It was if you look at it from a separate thing and then look at it as just like the separate thing and like look at it as a movie, as a film by itself, it works in a lot of ways. If you look at it just a film by itself, it's fine. But it's an overpowered...
I did say that, by the way, Ben. That was me, yes. I did say that. I did predict that no one was going to like this because you can't please everybody. And that's the problem with fan service, because fan service can't achieve its goal. because if you do too much fan service, you can't please everybody, and that's even JJ said that himself. Even he said it himself. Now, Kermit, I'm going to address you in a minute, not undress you because you're already undressed. I'm going to address you. You're totally within your right to like this movie. A part of me likes this movie too. I do. And in this movie, like I said, I like. Sorry.
I'm with you on that. Like, I don't love this movie. I hate so much about it. But at least I like something about it, which I fucking did not with the Last Jedi. So I'm just happy to have some.
But that's not enough for me as the finale of the Skywalker saga. If this was another movie that I didn't care so much about, fine. If I didn't care about these other characters, that's why in the finale of the Justice League, I thought the exact same way about this, because I thought, well, it's a movie that I thought was sort of enjoyable, but at the same time, you could reboot those characters because they've been rebooted 1,000 times, and we can make another DC movie and we'll be fine. You can't do that with this. You can't reboot Luke. You can't reboot Leia. You can't reboot Solo. And if you did, you would taint it. Not your taint, but a different type of taint altogether.
Frog taint. Well, they already did though. They already did reboot it in that horrible Galaxy of Adventures. I mean, they did reboot it. They rebooted it for idiot feminists who want to watch women be a bitch. They wanted to watch Leia be a bitch.
But what I mean,
that's really fun to watch.
You can't bring back the dead characters in this, and my point is, like, you can't bring back Leia who passed away. You can't, and that's my point. Now, to end the Skywalkers, like you had it perfect, Ben. You had it perfect when you said it should have ended. They should have brought the characters in the first movie, got our rocks off, all our nostalgia, wonderful, and then moved along the second and third with a completely different, situation. Move along. Not even kill the characters, but have them retire gracefully into the night, fly into the sky, and say, "So long, friends."
Basically, like this last one, right?
Sorry.
Basically, like the Rise of Skywalker. I mean,
no, because they've already tortured the characters before this.
Yes, I agree with you.
Retcon it with any.
Yeah, if there wasn't the last Jedi, then it would make the Last Jedi.
No, because
Ben,
in the first one.
Hey Ben,
I'm listening.
They brought back Palpatine in the flesh, and they couldn't bring back Luke Skywalker in the flesh. Palpatine fell down that shaft and the Death Star exploded. And then here he is back alive in the flesh. And Luke just farted, Luke was just a fart in the wind, just disappeared out of nowhere. Like, they can't bring back Luke.
Luke. I've said that several times, and yeah, it's. I mean, their explanation of this is that he was a clone, so they could have easily have made Jake Skywalker a clone. So if you want to go that direction, it's just asinine. They should have had Luke come back. The original, one of the deleted scenes, according to Mike Zero, guys. Sorry, forgive me, but according to Mike Zero, and this was in some of the leaks, they were going to have Anakin and Luke both pull Palpatine into the Netherworld. That was going to be the end. So anyway, it's just ridiculous.
Well, I honestly, the thing I'm disappointed in the Luke we saw in 8 wasn't a clone, because, like you said, Ben, that would have been great. Like, he should have been that should have been a clone, just like George Sabath was in Heir to the Empire.
Yeah. Shaney.
Yep.
Hey, Shaney, your dog, can we see your dog's face? I have a point to make.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got the same eyes as Palpatine before he got his powers from Rey.
Yeah.
And Ben.
Oh.
The Palpatine eyes. Nice.
He's an old dog. He's blind. Leave him alone.
Oh.
So nice.
We're all going to get there.
I know.
Comet. We got him for Christmas, and that's why I called him Comet. It was named after a reindeer, because when I got him, he was this size, and he looked like a little reindeer. Yeah, that's why But the poor guy, he's got diabetes, so I give him 2 shots of insulin a day. so that he could survive.
I didn't know dogs could get diabetes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Neither did I until he got it. Poor guy, last year, he woke in the middle of the night. He just was freaking out. He couldn't see. He was going around in circles. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? From one day to the next, it was he could see 1 minute, he couldn't see the next. He was freaking out. And then we just took him to the vet, and they checked him, and they said his blood sugar's way over the top, and it's in his breed apparently, and he has diabetes. Lucky we have insurance, so we're able to get his insulin and 2 needles a day from now on. So that's why he looks like Palpatine. What's Palpatine's excuse? Does he have diabetes?
Palpatine survived the Death Star explosion.
Yeah, that's
the rumor that they're saying he didn't survive the explosion because this is not the same Palpatine.
Yeah,
the explanation from what I heard was that this Palpatine is the original Palpatine, and all the other Palpatines were the clones. That this Palpatine was the original, the one that was pulling the strings from the other Palpatines the other Palpatine, which was
the Palpatine that fell. So the Palpatine in Return of the Jedi was a clone?
Yes, that one was the clone. This one's the real one that was pulling the strings.
That's stupid as hell.
So Darth Vader. So Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, the story of Star Wars, according to George Lucas. George Lucas says the story of Star Wars is the story of Anakin Skywalker. He said that. So Anakin Skywalker, the most important character in this entire history, the history of Star Wars that we have felt for 40 years, is now being destroyed by...
Yeah, he kills the clone, not the real Palpatine.
So Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, kills a damn clone instead of destroying the Sith.
That's the only way to explain this. That's the only way to explain his survival. That's also why he looks different physically. That's why he looks younger. He didn't get melted in the face like the original one did.
He looked like a zombie though. You know, he looked like a robot clone or something. You know.
Yeah, he was. I mean, according to
the one that came before me, and the one that came before me, and the one that came before that. Remember, he even says that.
That was dumb. That was dumb, by the way. Sorry.
So we know that one of them was a clone, and from what it looks like,
I thought he was talking about Snoke's.
No, I thought he was talking about himself. That's what it sounded like. That he was talking about that he was multiple versions of himself throughout the generations, and that.
That would make sense if you learned that from Darth Plagueis.
Well, yeah, if it did, but that's why I thought it should have been. I always thought that the ending should have involved Darth Plagueis. At least it would have brought something new to the to the table.
How did they not do that? I don't know.
That's so dumb.
Terrible. I can't argue that point, guys.
Well, I mean, like I said. If you're a kid growing up today and you're seeing this for the first time, you're fine with it. There's nothing wrong. You're good. It's a movie. You know, you eat your popcorn, you enjoyed it. You know, you went home and you went to sleep and you played with your Jedi and your Rey toys. Wonderful. But for me, as far as a conclusion to Anakin's tale, a conclusion to Luke Skywalker's tale, and a conclusion to Leia, it's not adequate for me, and they should never have been included in this debacle, and that's my problem with it. What they did with the rest of the characters, it's fine. What they did to the old characters is my issue, and that's why I can't accept this as canon. It's their fault for including them. They shouldn't have done that. They should, like you said, Ben, they should have had them on, wave goodbye to the crowd, make Luke the one magical thing with the Force, you know. And Han and Chewie and everyone just wave goodbye and do their own thing from now on, and that was it. And end it the way it should have, because they're older. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to see Luke do cartwheels in the sky as an old man. We don't want to see his bloated body flipping around. I don't want to see, you know. I didn't need to see that.
I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people did want to see him overpowered. But
again, that's real fan service. But again, back to the fan service argument, I would even argue that this wasn't fan service. I mean, this was fan service as far as this series is concerned, as far as what they could have done with what they had to work with, I agree. But in the whole, in the grand scheme of things, this does disservice to the fans as a grand scheme of things because of what it does to the old characters. Shaney used CGI. Me personally use CGI. For me, CGI Shaney.
So that actually reminds me of there is a new thing. By the way, there's a computer program that you can do a CGI version of yourself if you want. Like some people are doing like talking animals, and it looks like a cartoon talking animal and stuff. So anyway,
but I know what you mean when you said CGI. I thought of the same thing too. Of maybe rebooting this, decanonizing this, doing their own thing going forward, and then
with Jon Favreau as the helm.
I don't care who's at the helm, as long as who's ever at the helm. See, that's where I am at right now. I don't care as long as whoever's there listens to George Lucas, because as far as I'm concerned, George Lucas should be included in any story making process.
Don't you think? Don't you think? Sorry? Don't you think Favreau does that?
I don't know. I'm not. Maybe he does. I don't know. It all depends on what Disney wants.
He does the Mandalorian, right?
Well, if that's the case, because I don't know. I don't know the behind the scenes of things. If that's what happens, that's fine. That's great. If George Lucas has input into the Mandalorian, that's wonderful. And that's how I would. That's the only way I would take it more seriously, is if George Lucas sat down with the creative crew and said, this, let's do it like that, and then Jon Favreau could direct it. Me, I personally want to see the Russo brothers, because I really think they would do a freaking phenomenal job.
Yeah.
No way.
You don't think so?
All right, Kermit, that's it. Arm wrestling match. Let's do this.
I can't stand like the way they went totally SJW near the end. In my opinion,
I don't think that was their fault. They were told to do that.
I mean, they
were probably forced.
Okay, then I need a director that'll stand up to the forces that be then, because I thought they totally dropped the ball.
You're talking about Endgame, right?
With Endgame,
but I think that's
bullshit. I hated that, dude. I hate SJW stuff, and I don't know why I'm on Star Wars side now, but I am, and I don't know,
because you want to be. That's the thing, and I respect that decision. I really do, and I wanted to as well. When you and I first talked, and you said you liked it, I wanted to like it too. I really did. I was. That's why I sat before I did mine.
I don't love it, bro.
I know, but there are things to love about it. There were good things in it that I could have lost myself and said, "Wow, it's a great," but I can't let go of the things that bother me so much. I tried, and it doesn't conclude the story properly. And I'm not talking about Rey's story; it's fine. I'm talking about Luke's story. I'm talking about them.
But nothing was ever going to do that for you or for nothing was ever going to suffice for you or for me after they went forward after what was a perfect ending to a story in Return of the Jedi. And I'm with that, and I hate that. But they did it, and they bought it, and the show must go on. So I'm sad about it. But
the show doesn't have to go on. That's the difference. You think the show has to go on. I'm saying the show is dead. The show is dead.
Right, though. Right.
I think I want to see the new show go on. That's what I want to see.
So they don't have the new show.
So the new show is Zombie Palpatine. It's continuing on even though it's dead.
No, it'd be like trudging old bloated what's his name? Old bloated Captain Kirk. What's his name?
William Shatner.
William Shatner, bringing him back into and saying, "Here, get in here. Go along with Captain Picard on your adventures." I don't want to see that. He had his moment. He had his time. That should have been its own thing, and it was. And that's why I'm saying that's why the next generation was so awesome, because it did its own thing. It lived in its own.
There is so much ample opportunity for good Star Wars content to be made.
Sure, I'm not doubting it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there is no opportunity now for them to fix what they broke in the past. And that's my problem. Not what they could do in the future, is what they failed to do and what they ruined going forward. They ruined.
Can they ever make it up
the Force, dude? The Force is ruined.
Can they ever make it up to you?
No, I don't. It's not. Hold on. It's not about making it up to me, though. That's the problem. I don't. For me, it's like they can make it up to me by decanonizing this. That's how they'll make it up to me. Decanonize this trilogy.
Do you?
They could make it up to me by making an announcement saying we realized that this was a big pile of horse manure, and it's a disjointed mess that
Like,
somebody could find that they could like, but this is not how to build a trilogy, and decanonize it and start from scratch.
So basically, if Bob Iger calls a Twitter press conference and jumps off the top of the building and commits suicide.
Well, yeah, that's fine. But that's my prerogative. You could like it, and you can continue the same way as I can say this thing goodbye to me.
Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember that when the news first came out? When it was actually a release. Someone was there. It was like one of the making Star Wars, the Jason Wards or whatever. They were making fun of it, but there was a big, petition. It was the petition that was first put out saying you need to decanonize The Last Jedi. And it was literally, I think it was literally like the week after it was out. So it was still in theaters. And then, of course, you had the shill media just defending it and making fun of us. And that's where the man baby stuff happened. But I remember distinctly in very, very sharp detail when I saw that happen. And when it broke out and it was this big thing, there was a petition to make that happen, to decanonize The Last Jedi and scrap it from the thing. And there's like, you must do this. And all they did was just make fun of it. All they did was make fun of it. And it's like, they would probably have made lots of money if they had, but.
Well, like the friggin' guy, I'm sorry, but Rian Johnson's a twat. I'm so sick of his shit. He constantly sends messages about how he thinks that the mythos of Luke was much better because they added a different story arc, and that's what's better. And I'm like, you're not wrong, dude. He's not wrong that adding a new story arc to a character is a bad thing, or even making him have to take a step backwards and have to,
Right.
which is not a bad thing. But there's a difference between making a character and taking him a step back and having him, and also if you're gonna do that, you better damn well explain how that happens. You can't just say, "Oh, he just did it," and that's it. Explain how a guy with hope, because it's like saying, "Oh, Joker's evil," but let's not talk about how he became evil. We liked the road that how Joker got from this guy to this point to this point. So I want to see how Luke went from optimism to this, because you can't just say it. You have to prove it now. You have to earn that. You have to earn that from us. You can't just say it. You can't have 2 lines of dialogue in a throwaway flashback sequence and say, "Hey, everybody, isn't his backstory so wonderful, and aren't I a genius?" No, explain this for me and take me along on this ride, because I want to know this. How does this happen? They didn't do that. It was a friggin' flashback sequence and a throwaway couple of lines, and he wants to call himself a genius. No, explain this. Earn that.
I agree with you so much, Shani. I hate Rian Johnson, and this newest film reaffirmed my hatred for Rian Johnson.
Yeah, it does. It does to me too. And like I said, I acknowledge that Disney tried to fix this, but it's like the Kobayashi Maru. It's an unwinnable task. It's an unfixable war. There was no fixing this. I was going to make a video, and I didn't get to it, but I was going to make a video saying, especially when I heard about all the rewrites and remakes and going to and pandering to this audience, and then making a different ending and another ending. It's like, dude, that's not how you end this trilogy. If you're gonna do this and make a Frankenstein's monster of a trilogy, you might as well end it now and start over, because this is not how to do it. And I don't want my characters, Luke, Leia, them to be tarnished in this way. Do whatever the hell you want with Finn. Do whatever the hell you want with these guys. That's your generation. Do it. But
I wish Palpatine won.
That's what so many people said. I would have loved to have seen Palpatine versus Baby Yoda. That's what I would have loved to have seen.
Hey, that would have been. Oh my God, man! That would have been a great next sequel trilogy, right?
Like
No, because Palpatine's existence is problematic, guys.
it is. I'm just
No,
point. Yeah,
no.
it is.
Most white males his age are problematic, Shane.
Yeah, and he's really white.
I'm going to get to the closer to the
He
screen.
was albino. That's even the worst problem. That's the worst problem you can have is an albino. No, but if he was Plagueis, I would say imagine if he was Plagueis, then you got something there. Now you got something. Or someone
Why
new.
didn't they do that? Why didn't they incorporate Plagueis? Please tell me. I don't know.
Because then they would have had to write something. They didn't want to write anything. They just wanted
There's already the
to
Plagueis
fans
book.
and shut everyone up.
They have the Darth Plagueis book. You know,
They
Why
don't
didn't-
have source material.
right?
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But it's not. And we got what we got because they don't care.
Oh gosh.
Even me,
And I
as
go, and guys,
I'm a defender. I'm a defender of this film, but I agree with you guys that it's still bullshit. So I'm with you guys.
no, defend the film all you want, but I'm not just shitting on the film. I'm shitting on the trilogy. And regardless of what this film did, it didn't fix the trilogy, and that's my point. That's my point.
You're
And I
right.
think that's yours.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
And I think it's important to respect and, of course, understand and empathize with anyone else's opinion, especially since we were talking about people who hated whatever. What's his name from The Mandalorian? The guy, I keep forgetting his damn name, but
Pedro Pascal.
not him. The guy who said the bad things, threw Disney under the bus, about that whole thing. So, he even in his rant, he still acknowledged people. And that's one thing that I forgot to read. In his rant, he still acknowledged, he's like, great, if those other actors liked being in this new Star Wars, good for them and wonderful for them. He was actually dope. He was like, yeah, that's a dope thing. And so he was pointing out how great that is, that anyone could enjoy it. So what I'm trying to illustrate here, Kermit, is that I love that you love it. And I love that you're being positive in our negative, immersed, just hell.
You know what I'm positive, and you know what I'm positive for, and you know what I'm happy about, and you know what I love. I love you guys. I love you guys. You guys are my friends. I'm positive that I'm happy that you guys are in my life. I'm positive that I have 1,000 subs, and I have people who are on this live stream with us that are talking about this. I am happy that we are all talking like from different parts of the world. I'm from Canada. You guys are from different parts of the US. I am happy that that we can talk and be not argue with each other and still have differences of opinion, and that's fine and that's wonderful. And that's great. And I'm happy, and those are positive things in my life, real concrete things. I'm positive that I have a wife that I love. I'm positive that I still have a dog, even though he's got diabetes, he's still alive. And I'm sure you guys are positive. Tell me what you're positive about, DBS.
Everything you said, your love rant, I feel it's very sincere. And you know what? I like. No, not that I don't like. I love that you have you guys to BS around with on YouTube, and I like that like I could still get a stiffy in the morning.
Not for me though, right? Thank goodness.
Huh? Yeah, and I like. Let's see, what else do I like? I like Chef Boyardee raviolis. I like strawberry quick milk.
I got the quick milk.
Oh, yeah.
You got the quick milk.
You like that? You got that green milk, like that space cow that Luke drank.
Yeah.
Right. I acknowledge that.
You, Kermit? What do you love and what are you grateful for? And what do you what are the real things in your life that you're happy about and that's positive?
Well, I'm really grateful for my big ass dick. Aside from
I
that,
would be too.
I'm grateful for fucking being a badass motherfucker who doesn't take shit for nobody and who's always balls to the wall. And fuck you if you don't like me. Hail to Star Wars and George Lucas, and I like Die Hard.
which is what Star Wars did. It died hard.
Did I?
Ben, your turn.
Hey, wait, real quick. I'm glad I know you guys. You guys are good people, man. DBS, Shaney, Ben, thanks for allowing me into the circle of friends that you guys have.
Dude, thank you for saying my name first, Kerm.
Hail.
And all these amazing people in the chat too. Let's point these people out really quick. I want to mention Biden Touch said something. This is really interesting. This is great, and this is something that I was saying at the very beginning when that whole thing came out, it's like I personally think that maybe George Lucas was he was naive. It's like he thought they were going to treat his wonderful creation with respect, and they just totally pissed all over it. And it's one of those. It's like, I guess, he kind of screwed up because it's part of me really believes that it's like, you kind of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess he had a long-lasting relationship with Kathleen Kennedy. That relationship had been for many years, right? So that is something that it's like, which way do you go? Anyway, it's tough. He was totally trusting to her when he should probably have done a little bit of searching on what kind of what kind of social media people she was hanging out with, or what kind of things her beliefs, what she was into.
Well, again, I think he was naive, and I think selling it to Disney was. I mean, everybody knows what Disney is. I don't think anyone's under some false pretense of what Disney was about and what they were about. I think that, and I agree that a lot of the blame has to be put on him for what he did. When I do say, though, that I would accept it if he was part of the team, is because he's the creator, and I have to respect the guy who's the creator, and he knows he knows his universe better than anyone does. And that's where I would have to listen and be and say that I would take that. I still think, he's definitely responsible for at least some of what happened. Has to definitely take that responsibility. But anyway, guys, I'm going to end it here. Kermit left. I don't know where he disappeared to, but this is Christmas Eve, guys. In Canada, is it Christmas Eve there, guys? It's Christmas Eve, right now?
Well, in about 40 minutes, it'll be Christmas Eve. Hey, I want to ask you guys one last thing before you guys go. Should I buy the Leia lightsaber if it comes out? Like the $200, expensive lightsaber. Should I get the Leia lightsaber? What do you guys think?
Ben, I mean, let me just say something. Regardless of what we say, you're going to buy it anyway, aren't you?
Maybe, but you guys,
you just can't help yourself. You're a saber guy. You love sabers. You're just going to buy it.
Your opinions count.
I say go for it. You might as well. You might as well.
Nice.
You might as well. Anyway, guys, I'm glad you guys joined me, and you guys let me Ben, you allowed me to rant, and I needed at least somebody to keep me unfocused, because usually I go unfocused.
Hopefully I helped.
You did, and I'm glad you guys heard Kermit disappeared on me, but that's fine. His Johnson will his positivity and his schlonger will live in infamy in our hearts forever. Guys, so I'm going to say to the chat. We'll say thank you guys for coming. Let's start from the beginning here. Let's see. Opinion was here. Thank you, Snow Dove. Thank you, TWTG Content. Thank you, The Sentinel. Thank you, Michael Stark. Thank you, DJ Odyssey. Thank you, Biden Touch. Thank you, Tauntaun Girl. Thank you, Arcane Arcade. Thank you for coming. I haven't seen you in a while, The Sentinel. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you all, Mr. Pete. Merry Christmas, Michael Stark.
Can I put Tauntaun Girl's video in the chat?
Sure, go ahead.
I was just gonna put that in there really quick.
The production on, I saw it. Yeah, it was cool. I liked it a lot.
Dude, that was great. She was super fun to watch, and it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it greatly. So it deserves more views. It's only at like 87 views. It deserves 10,000 views.
I put it in the high ground. I'm gonna have to put it again, and
just got to keep telling people about it. It's so good.
The high ground. Everybody's just posting their own shit.
That's what it's for. It's networking.
That's good then.
Yeah. That's what
please.
Also, yeah, guys, I just want to do like you guys want to pimp out your channels a little bit too, because Fanatics Film. Anything you want people to see on your videos? Anything you've got there?
Well, I just did a video talking about the what's his name, Tauntaun Girls video, and then I also of course talked about what's his name, the guy from The Mandalorian, talking about it. So it was a fun stream. So yeah.
Kermit.
I just made a new PMS show where I try to piss everybody off. So go check it out.
Yes, he did. And DBS. Anything coming in the world of Saber?
Yeah, I'm working on a new video. It's called 2 Girls, 1 Cup.
Yes.
I'll put
lightsabers. I'll put Force Lightning. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait for that one. And me, guys, I'm working on something. I told you it's a series that I'm working on, that I'm really working hard on. I know you guys are hard on. Yeah, damn it. He said hard on. Yeah, and I'm really, hopefully I'll have it after Christmas up and doing, man, I just can't get out of these innuendos. Have it up after Christmas, or try to get it done by then. Star Wars, thanks for showing up. Even though you were a little late, but it's unfortunate that I got to go, guys. So thank you guys for coming, and may the Force stay with us, guys, forever.
Thanks a lot for having us on, guys. Have a great night. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good night.